Hey there, boys, girls, YouTube world. Today, the Duff Dog and I are going to see if we can't get this 1969 Chevrolet ElCamino running for the first time in 35 years. That's right. This thing's been off the road since 1989. Funny thing is, this thing's got a little bit of local history, so I'll talk about that in a bit. But how I found this thing was I was cruising the old Facebook marketplace, saw this thing listed. You guys know how much I love ElCaminos. Turns out one of the Bobbsey twins that I know had this thing. He picked it up in the big city of Lucca, North Dakota. He was missing a bunch of front end steering parts, so he put those in there, and then it just kind of sat. So listed on Facebook Marketplace. Threw him a lowball offer. He said, I'll even deliver it for that, because he was sick of dealing with people on the Facebook Marketplace. So here we have it. So the story on this thing is a gentleman that I know from Foreman, my hometown. He owned this thing way back in the early 70s. Him and his brothers all went through it. And then it was just up the road in Sturham, a gentleman had it. And then in Cogswell, another gentleman had it. And then at some point it ended up in Lucca. But the guy from Foreman said this thing really ripped. So we're going to find out. So as you'll see, Mark is the gentleman. He said his brother, this thing used to all be blue, but now she's the Merrick edition. Red front clip, blue back, white hood. His brother was driving down the road in Oaks, North Dakota, and was eyeballing some pretty looking filly and ran in the back of a dump truck. So I think he said they went to Fargo, found this front clip. She's an SS 396 special. I'm guessing this thing's got a 350 in it. I don't really know. They said small block automatic. These guys have never had it running. It's a not terrible car. Still got the original seat. Looks like somebody took the carpet out. No tilt. He said there's no drive shaft in it. It's a Bluetooth drive shaft. Looks like somebody had a CB whip in it. Bed floor's got a little bit of rust. I don't know anything about these things. The most I know is I had a 68 Nomad station wagon. So for anybody that doesn't think that they made a Chevrolet Nomad after 1957, they made them well into the 60s, and I think they even made them into the 70s, but I don't know. Here's a 68 to prove. Go. Yes, that's right. They made a Nomad in 1968, and I wish I'd have kept that thing, because a lot of these parts would interchange, and I basically gave it away, but out of sight, out of mind. Can't keep them all. So there's a little hooey in the quarter here. That'd probably pop out, but there's some rust in the rockers. Looks like it's got some S10 rally wheels. Somebody started doing some body work there. She's a little kicked in there, dent in the tailgate. Yeah, typical TRAR stuff. Truck, car, TRAR. It's got a hitch, even though all it does is pull tail. This quarter, not so good. A little caved in there and there. It's a mullet machine. We definitely need to get the mullet out for this video. I think you can get these things with big blocks, 4 speeds, bucket seats, all the cool super sport stuff, stripes, all that. Door's been wrapped around. Who knows? She's had a hard life, but you know, from like the dash forward, it's all Chevelle, right? I don't know. I had to look at the conversation to see what year it is. I think 68, 69 are pretty much the same, but maybe they're not. Grill's busted out. Looks like somebody did a little amateur body work on that valance. Let's get the hood open, see what she is. I don't know where the Duff went, so I guess I'll be doing that myself too. Oh, before I do that, here you go. Last tagged 1989. 35 years ago. Well, it's June of 89, so next month it'll be. I guess the hood doesn't latch. Kind of. Spark plugs laying on the intake manifold. Not a good sign. Looks like it does have power steering. Long water pump setup. 2-barrel. Manual brakes. Looks like the fan is not on the engine, but it's over here. I'm curious as to why the spark plugs are all laying on the intake. Oh, that's one of those. It's not a Rochester 2G. That's, I don't know what it is. It's an oddball. I think that's a Mopar carburetor. Or they use something similar to that on Mopars. And this air cleaner does not look like it belongs. So somebody's been here before. This is the old style, small block with a breather up front. Let's see what the dipstick tells us. It says it's barely on the stick. So that's not very appealing. Still got points. The coil's still here, nobody stole that. The vacuum is not there. Looks like somebody stole the wipers. The throttle linkage is not hooked up, but maybe that's because that carburetor is wrong. It's not even a flexi hose, but it's like an old straight hose. It's definitely not a formed hose. They got that on the bottom too. Nope, but they got the inline block heater, the bracket for the smog pump. You can see those new suspension parts that are just sitting in place. They left us a battery. Sure, that's dead. Looks like January of 18, somebody attempted to get it running. January 18, doesn't seem like that long ago, but that is already 6 years, if my math serves me correct. Well, tell you what, let's throw a battery in it, see what happens. Looks like Wood Pimp is our battery sponsor this week. You too can be a battery sponsor at mortskerepair.com. You get to pick your name out. We don't pick Wood Pimp out. You can also get sweet shirts like this. We got magnetic screwdrivers. We got super scrapers in stock. Get them while you can. We got a pretty good selection of t-shirts and screwdrivers right now, so go check that out at mortske.com. But we still got a few banners left. We got ball caps. We got sweatshirts. It is koozie season. It's warming up. Speaking of warming up, we're gonna pour some concrete. So if we get this thing running, we're gonna have to try to sneak it through all that hot garbage and out the back door. But koozies, get your magnetic can koozie. Mortske.com. We got 3 styles of those as well. What do we got? Oops. Top post with the hold down tarp strap. Custom. There's our negative. Here's the positive. No funny noises. I'll take it. Thank you, Wood Pimp, for being our battery sponsor this week. I guess I'll reach inside and hit the key if it's got any. See what happens. It tried. Are they all out on this side? Sure looks like there's 4 spark plugs laying on the intake manifold. Same over here. Surely, if somebody was in here, oh, why is the temp sender not in there? That's all rusty. Hopefully the threads are fine on that. Pipe threads. Yeah, surely if somebody was in here, they would have lubricated the cylinders if this was locked up, you know? ATF and acetone.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Right. Champion RV15YCs. Yep. All right, let's try her again. Nothing. I can't imagine these terrible old battery cables and ends would be given any grief. Okay, so we know somebody's been here before. So let's spray some lube in the cylinders and let's go underneath and put a bar on it. See if we can't bar it over and maybe save the life of the starter. Plus, we're gonna take a look underneath and see just how fantastic this thing is. We know it's been in a wreck. I know it's been driven hard. I know they treated it like a truck. So maybe there'll be some surprises under there. But first, let's spray some lube down them cylinders. What plastic inner fenders? What a time to be alive in 1969. Wasn't that the year that there was Woodstock? One of the years of Woodstock? Man, I don't know if we've had a stuck small block Chevy yet. I do know that we got plenty of small block Chevy parts around if this thing is stuck. I don't know if we got a good one left anymore. We pretty much burned through all those with the old 67 Chevy pickup that Wally skunked us on. She's pretty freaking rusty in there. And we found the culprit. The bearings are wiped out. There's a nice big groove in the camshaft or the crankshaft, so I don't know how much end plate you're supposed to have on a small block Chevy, but 75 thou we measured it as. Mojo says it's excessive. You can see how much movement we got going on in there. But look at this counterbalance. It's even rusty. That has been running up against the block. You can see how much it wore into this bearing. It actually tore a chunk loose. But look at this. I don't know if you can see that surface. It's just gone on that crankshaft. Completely wiped out. I'm going for cheese and rice. Curious if this thing's got a turbo 350 or a powerglide. That 68 Nomad that I was talking about earlier, that thing had a sweet running 307 and a powerglide. Would have been a perfect donor drivetrain if this one's no good, but I'm sure this one will be just fine. Yeah, that carburetor definitely is not numbers matching. Speaking of that, we should run the numbers, see if it's numbers matching. Maybe it's like a Vet 2-barrel engine. Wouldn't that be great? Did they ever make a Vet with a 2-barrel? I doubt it. Guess I've seen crazier things. You could probably special order it. Oh, Scotch lock on the alternator wiring. So it's definitely not going to charge. I hope this thing runs, because Mark said this thing ran like a scalded cat. Said it would get air on the intersections, so we're gonna have to test that theory. Not that I don't believe him, but you know, wearing a mullet, jumping some intersections was like a good time to me. No AC. Oh, I can see flexi exhaust from here. Nothing but the finest for the old ElCamino. All right, got all the cylinders full of lubrication. Let's get this thing lifted up in the air and see if we can't get her cranking over. Let's see what kind of sins the ElCamino's got going on downstairs. That doesn't sound right. Well, the core support isn't bashed in. Oh, there's a little fixage on the front frame rail. That must have been from the encounter with the old dump truck. Looks pretty straight on the driver's side though. Frame horns don't seem to be kinked. Like I said, they said it was missing all the steering components, so that's all brand new, nothing but the finest Rock Auto stuff. Factory sway bar, drum brakes. I think you could get discs on these. Oh, I was gonna say he's missing the clamps. They're there, just not tightened up, so we're gonna need to do a bit of an alignment before we drive it. Ooh, that tire's about ready to have kittens. Look at this, number 9 wire, end flexi exhaust, both sides, all the way to nothingness. Floors look phenomenal. Looks like somebody replaced the stock steel line with a nice chunk of rubber. Who knows what was going on there? Like I said, no drive shaft. It is a powerglide. Looks like somebody was maybe gonna get in there and attempt to do that stuff. If this thing doesn't run, we're blaming it on the Fram oil filter and the flexi hose on the exhaust. Yeah, floors look super good on this thing. Rockers, how about that? I think you could get these with a 10 bolt and a 12 bolt. Of course, it's got air shocks and the spring spacers, because you know, truck things. Oh, chrome diff cover. Just a 10 bolt. Wah, wah, wah.
Aww.
Yeah, these are, that's how they got the big fat tires on her back in the day when Mark had it. Like I said, this quarter is pretty Swiss cheesy. Somebody was doing a little fiberglass and Bondo work. Frame rails look good. Fuel tank ain't even all beat up. Ooh, even had wiring for that trailer hitch. This quarter's way better though. Back bumper's even pretty decent. Little hooey there, a couple little scuffs there, not bad. All right, let's get that inspection cover off the transmission flex plate, torque converter, whatever you want to call it, and put El Jefe on there and see if this thing will turn over. I bet it will. It's a small block Chevy. Unless there's a rod hanging out of the block. Let's double check for those. Nope, looks good. But it looks like somebody put the wrong bolts in the starter. Oh, they got this inspection cover wired on. Oh. So these ElCaminos are the worst of both worlds. Not only is it a muscle car, you know, being a Chevelle, but it's also a truck. So it really attracts the rednecks. You got the people who want to have a muscle car and also want to have a truck. So you got a muscle truck. And so those are the worst people for messing things up. And no doubt those rednecks previous are the ones that sabotage this thing, so it won't run. Well, we ain't been stopped by a redneck yet, so let's get that inspection cover off. I got my handy dandy redneck inspection cover removal tool. Let's see what happens. Snip of the old mechanics wire. And some 16 gauge electrical wire over here. That thing is pretty crispy right there. I don't even think we're gonna save that. You're right, we will. All right, here goes nothing. Oh, that's exactly what we're getting. Nothing. Not what you like to see. Let's go the other way, just like that girl in college. Cheese and rice. Why is it so tight? Bigger bar? It's making a funny noise. Huh? Talking to the camera, Bob. Oh, trying to get old Theodore running here. Is that what he went by? Was Theodore?
Ted.
Ted.
Yeah.
Ted.
No.
Oh. God dang it. There's something really binding in there. Ooh. I don't want to. I like my knuckles.
Knuckle buster.
She's, as the kids would say, bricked. There's something not happy in there. Well, did a little drinking and a little thinking. A little thinking and drinking. Anyway, we got to pull this engine out. We're going to give her one more whirl today after it soaked all night. But as tight as this thing is, it don't even budge. Something is seriously wrong with this thing. And I think it's more than just being seized, you know, from rust and condensation and water. I think something's broken in there because she's tight. But let's give her a whirl, and if that don't work, we're gonna have to pull this thing out. So I think we'll just pull the whole motor and transmission assembly, because we can't. I got two of the torque converter bolts out because I had a bright idea last night that, well, maybe it's just the transmission. Well, I can only get two of the bolts out, which I knew better. But automatic transmissions don't ever seem like they seize up. But you never know. Something new every time, eh, Duff? All right, get my bar, see what happens. Maybe after soaking overnight, it'll just magically free itself out. Out, up, up. Magic. Be free, small block Chevy. No. Oh, seems like I had a better bite yesterday. Oh, no. So, the exhaust has already removed itself over there, so we'll pull a couple things loose down here. The drive shaft's already out, so we just got the shift linkage to undo. We'll probably do the tranny cooler lines while we're down here. We can pull the starter off so that clears the cross member. Let's get after it bright and early here. All right, the Trar debauchery continues. I just took the flexi exhaust off of there, and there was not nearly as many chunks of mechanics wire holding on the passenger side as there's the driver's side of that. Why did they wire it up the same? Well, on this side, you know, they were smart. Well, I don't know about that. Oh, that ground is broke. They could have zip tied it to this fuel line, but that wasn't a good, maybe they did once, and well, or maybe this rubber line was replaced, rubber hose, whatever. But this side had her tied to the brake line. It's tied to this brake line the entire length. You can see all the cobwebs from where it was. What a terrible idea. The only thing more terrible would have been to tie it to this rubber fuel line. It's a good home for that flexi exhaust pipe. Also, I noticed this is where the shift linkage, the ball should sit in there. It's like a socket, ball and socket. And it's not in there. But there's a chunk of ready rod here. That's the shift linkage now. And it's welded to the frame. I don't know. It's pretty fantastic. Another reason to just pull the old power slide out with the whole thing, because she's been fabric hobbled. Oh, and they got like a bolt welded to the floorboards to help it pivot. Oh, this is glorious. All right, let's keep after it. And the tranny pan ain't even all schmucked up. Would you look at that? So this ready rod ball and socket jive should sit in there, and there should be a rubber bushing, plastic bushing, excuse me. And then it should go straight over to your shift linkage here. But look at this, they welded this bolt with a washer to it, and that was their pivot on this hot rod. Pretty freaking ingenious, tell you what. These guys just needed a 68 Nomad donor to get all the right stuff in it. All right, enough making fun of the Trar. Back to work. The old radiator hose was just kind of resting in place. So apparently somebody was not finished putting that back together or is ready to take it apart. I think the last thing we're gonna do down here is snip our fuel hose, go to a fuel pump, and then we're gonna pull the engine mounts out. And then everything else should be able to get from the top. Oh. I always put starter bolt. Somebody has to have like a truckload of OEM starter bolts from all the starters that we've swapped that had the wrong bolts in them. You're just begging for problems using a regular old grade 5 or grade 8 bolt as a starter bolt. Beautiful. When are you gonna learn? All right, so almost every engine mount bolt I've ever pulled out for a small block Chevy should be 7/16. And these are 3/8. And I could be wrong, but they slid out pretty easy, so I'm pretty sure they got the wrong bolts in there. Trar things. Of course, this side is 3/8 as well. They are installed in the correct direction, however, so I'll give them that. For those of you who didn't know, the left-hand side goes from the forward back, and the right-hand side goes from the back forward. Why they do it like that, I'm not really sure. I think it's so that when you don't have to pull the fuel pump off to get this bolt out. Yeah, there's a big old ugly 7/16 thick washer on this one, so that is not factory hardware. Alrighty, now I think we can go hit her from the top side. Ugh, there's some fuel in that line and it is stanky. Nobody's still showing up to help me lift this hood up. Now we just got everything under here to undo. All right, let's get after it. Tech tip of the day, you definitely want electrical tape power wires for your alternator directly to your fuel hose. Ew, look at this meth. It's barely just beginning to crystallize. It'll be a good batch come the fall. Nasty. Good part about a trawler is you can put all the parts in the box. Just don't forget about the radiator back there and huck something heavy like a steel rim on top of it. That would be a bad day. What? Is there a mouse in the trap? Which one? One right by the door? Sure enough, Duff snagged another one in the old live trap. Just a mouse smelling machine, Duff. It did hook the throttle return spring up in the right spot on this little tang in the old thermostat housing. Come on, throttle cable. There we go. Coil wires, they've been chewed off yet? Nope, still connected. Your tech tip of the day. These are almost always 11/32 on the starter and 3/8 up here. But sometimes they're 11/32. 3/8, 11/32. The only reason I tell you that is because I am absolutely horrendous at judging these small nut sizes. And I'm sure somebody out there is like me and can't judge a 1/4 inch from a 3/8, from a 5/16, from 11/32. So I'll just let you know. Generally speaking, 3/8, 11/32 on the starter. Now you know. So when you crawl underneath to get your starter bolt off, you got the right wrench in your hand already, and you'll be like, thanks, Mortske. Another reason I think this is a Mopar carburetor, or not a factory carburetor anyway, is because of this cardboard gasket they made. Doesn't look like something GM would do. All right, what are we getting? Temp sender's not even existent. Oil pressure, is it mechanical? Is it electric? Does it even exist? I don't see anything back there, so we're calling it good. Oh, we do got a ground wire here. Going to the valve cover. Looks like all we got left is our power steering pump, or lines, or hoses, whatever. We gotta do something with the power steering. So I think we're just gonna pull the whole pump off and lay her off to the side. Let's see how that goes. 3 bolts, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I just lay that some biscuit off to the side, out of the way where it ain't gonna leak. Look golden. Spark plugs look a little rusty. That could be from sitting out in the wide open. I don't see any that are mashed shut, like our blower motor that would say a chunk of piston went through them. Now we most definitely forgot something, because we always do. But let's grab our lift plate and our cherry picker. And if we forgot something, that thing is gonna find it. All right, that didn't go too bad. Spilled a little tranny fluid, to be expected. We got our great big pan ready to go. I did snag the flexi exhaust on the cross member, so that kind of fought us a bit, but we got her out of there. Now I'm gonna pull the bell housing bolts off the power slide. We're gonna slide that off there, and then we'll get the one remaining torque converter bolt, maybe take some accessories off, and we'll bolt her in the engine stand and do a little autopsy. Chin says take the oil pan off because they're easier to take off. I feel like it's going to be in the top end, and oil pans are messy, so we're taking the top end off. It'll be a great time for working real fast and playing music, because there's going to be a lot of noise out front here. Doing a little apron work, ain't Duff? Fat Jesse's beeping away in the E60. JM's beeping away in the T66. I don't think old Rock gets a beeper in the dump truck. Duff's supervising. Hopefully we get some concrete tomorrow. Sounds like rain today though, so see what happens. All right, previous assembler used China wall gaskets. It's not all sludgy in the oil valley galley here, but she's a little rusty. All right, let's pull some valve covers and some heads off, see what we can find. I don't see anything too suspicious in there. Wait, let me get my Mortske pointing device here. So these are coolant passages. And these are intake. That's exhaust gas. But look at this. I bet she filled up with coolant. Does that go through? Maybe not. And that's just a flaw in the casting, but I don't know where that flaw goes to. There's a hole there. Definitely a hole there. Maybe that's all right. All right, keep ripping into it, see what we can find. Well, that's a new one, like a self-tapper style thread holding the valve cover on. But it almost looks like these are a brand new heads that never been run. I mean, there's no sludge or hardly any in there. And they are 993, which I think is a pretty good smog year ahead. Well, it don't look good, but we've definitely seen worse. Quite a bit of rust in that number 7 cylinder. A little bit of sludge in 3. But all the even cylinders over here look pretty respectable, other than some carbon. I guess we roll it over, pull the pan off. Timing cover? I don't know what could be binding. Everything I see here should allow it to turn over. The heads look the same. Like I said, we've made stuff like that run before. No valves stuck open, no valves busted off. I guess we just keep rolling. Poor Duff had to get tied up. I didn't want him getting run over by the equipment out there, and of course he had to be visiting with those guys, so it's for your own good. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, rounded right off. Just what I wanted to do. Who does this? This drain plug's in so freaking tight. Good old locking pliers to save the day. Ew. That one looked good. Well, it's code CKL. It's not numbers matching. It's a 73 350. Mojo came to inspect. What do you think, Mojo?
Oh, I think we could fix this right here.
You can fix it?
A little bit of money.
With a little bit of money. So, here's the lifters. And about 12 of the 16 are like that. One of them doesn't want to come out of there. So it surely needs a cam and lifters. And I wiped some sludge out of that cylinder. And it's still pretty chewy in there. So I think this is a core. So yeah, we're really striking out on the old 350s. Small blocks in general. We got one over there that needs a crank. So we might look at this one to see if it's 4 bolts and what the crank looks like. Maybe the crank is good, but I feel like all that metal that's missing from these is in, some of it is in the crank bearings. But if we had a crank, we could put that in some bearings in Corey over there, Corey crankshaft. So yeah, just when you thought I could make any small block run, like Mojo said, if we threw enough money and time at this thing, we could make it run. But it's really not in the cards, especially for a ElCamino, because everybody knows how much I love those. Somebody left a Cyclops light under there. We better grab that before it dies and we forget about it. All right, I guess we'll roll it over and see what the bottom side looks like. Ew. Ew. That is a lot of sludge down there, though. It's funny the top end looked as good as it did. 2-bolt main. I don't know what else to tell you about it. I don't see anything busted down here. You see a big old blob of sludge back here. Yeah. Well, we may as well pop a couple rod caps out. See how those look. These actually all look pretty good, so we'll have the shop inspector come check them out. See what he thinks. Hey Mojo, take a look at these bearings. What do you think? You think it's worth taking this crankshaft out and putting in that one that's got a bunch of end play?
Yeah.
That's like the worst one that I took off so far anyway. I ain't pulled no mains yet.
Are they standard or you don't know?
Well, yeah, you can take that one loose. There ain't no marking on them to see. Well, they're date coded July 11th, 1994. So I would imagine it's been turned, but maybe they're somebody rebuilt it, put standards. They didn't say anything on there about being 10 under or nothing.
No, I didn't. That engine is good besides just the end play, right?
Yeah, another one. You got a crank polisher? Blow it all apart? Swap all the guts to that one?
Yeah. That one, it was just a bearing. It didn't wear into the cap, did it? Didn't wear.
No, it wore into the crank.
It wore into.
It didn't even wear into the bearing. It wore into the crank. Well, look at this. I don't know if you can see that surface. It's just gone on that crankshaft. Completely wiped out.
Because if we do this to keep the bearings, but We gotta leave those main bearing caps with that engine. You know, we can't take heat caps and put on that.
No. We're just gonna take the crank and the bearings. We're leaving the rods and the main caps.
All that.
So you think it'll work?
Yep.
It either will or it won't, right?
Right.
Just out a whole bunch of time.
That's it.
Good thing I got lots of that. Time is cheap.
Well, we know the crank or the camera shot in this one.
Yeah. I thought, oh shoot, we could seal that one out of Randy's. No, that one was wiped out.
That was.
The block was wiped out. The valves were sunk in the heads. There was nothing good in that thing. Maybe a timing chain. The cover.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I'll start marking caps and ripping her apart. Well, I think I'll mark all of these, and then we'll set them off to the side. We'll mark all those, tear it all apart, then put the crank, and then we'll start swapping. All right, you hear it from the boss. Give a stamp of approval on these things, so we're gonna start knocking pistons out and marking rod caps and all that good stuff. And hopefully we can salvage this crank and throw in crankshaft Corey over there and maybe get something that we can use out of this deal. A headache. That's probably where you get out of this deal, is a headache and 2 piles of junk engines. We'll see. It's worth a shot. Because we're running out of small block Chevys around here, good ones. And they haven't made these things for 40 years with a carburetor, so just do what we gotta do. Can't tell if these things have ever been marked before, so you can buy these stamps, Harbor Freight. I'm sure Amazon has them, everywhere else, but we're gonna mark these things so everything goes back together the way that it would before. And I'm gonna try not to screw them up. It makes it a lot easier when the engine turns over. All right, got all our rod caps marked. Now let's take this thing apart. Some of these pistons are gonna roll right out-ish. Some of them are gonna fight us. But we're really not worried about the pistons because this block needs bored, pistons need replaced. So if we ding them up a bit, no big deal. We're gonna try to take care of the rods. Crank and the bearings are our main concern, so we don't want to screw any of those up. So we'll try not to do it. So I'm gonna start by getting the pistons that I can, and then we'll go from there. Oh yeah, and we'll just take a chunk of 3/8 rubber hose over the bolts when we knock these rods out, so that way the threads on the rod bolts will scar up our nice crankshaft. We're into this pretty deep. Had to go sacrifice some brand new fuel hose. God dang it. Couldn't find some used stuff around. Alrighty, let's start with number 8 here. I get screwed up because the engine's upside down, so everything's bass backwards. Hey, that one slid right down. Lucky. Do I catch it when it drops off the bottom side there, Duff? Ring Ridge? Never heard of her. 1 down, 7 to go. 7. I think this was she's pretty stuck. This one looked pretty ugly from the top side. Yep. Oh boy. Gotta get all the heavy artillery. I was hoping once it started moving it would just roll right out of there, but it's not. We've freed up a lot of stuck engines. I don't know that we've ever disassembled one that was still stuck. What I really don't want to do is whack a journal on the crankshaft with this hammer, because that would defeat the entire purpose of this. Peeking through. What do they call that? Crowning. It's crowning. That's the word. Okay, it pretty much stopped. So, get a bigger bar or what? Bigger hammer. That's what we need. That'll fix it. Or break it. Jeez. The son biscuit is in there. Bigger bar it is. Oh yeah. Just gotta tell it what you want it to do. Definitely destroyed that piston, but as you can see, it wasn't in very good shape anyway. And we got what we need. Oh yeah, she's even, oh, I'm gonna say it's stuck on the wrist pin, but it freed up. It might be that we were hitting it. Who knows? I wonder if it'll turn now. That was definitely the bad one. Well, we don't have the mains bolted down, so it's trying to lift out of place. Now our crank should turn instead of lift out. There we go. And then you get idiot contractors who want to come in here and be like, why is he talking to himself? Well, there ain't a whole lot of room between the cylinder wall. Ah, that's the problem, is you can get the nuts off on some of these, but you can't get the rod past the bottom of the cylinder wall. This one's gonna be real close on number 3, upside down. Just kidding. That one's stuck too. You got a way to deal with those now though. That will make our lives a whole lot easier. I think those were the 2 stuck ones, 3 and 7. Oh yeah. Turn by hand, Duff. All right, got all our pistons and rods out of there. Now let's get the crank out. We're gonna have to take the pulleys off. Harmonic balancer is gonna have to come off. Water pump, timing cover, and then we'll have to take our timing chain off. Way free now. So much freedom. America. Freedom! The key in this is plenty of cleanliness, lube, and making sure everything goes back where it came from. You gotta keep all the bearings matched with all the journals, all the main caps, all the rod caps, all that stuff. So take your time, be careful. Know what you're doing? No, because I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, yeah, there you have it. So I think we're ready to pull this block off of the stand, put our other one on. All right, got Corey set in the engine stand here. Now it's pretty much the same thing as we just did on the last one. Blow it all apart. We could probably sneak a crank in it without pulling the top end, but I feel like it'll just make it easier to pull it all apart. We can sacrifice a set of head gaskets and intake gaskets and all that stuff, and that'll give us a better chance to look at all the rings and the lifters and timing chain, all that good stuff. So let's rip into it. Duff is enjoying the rain day inside on a leash. Maybe not, but he looks cozy. So per usual, we'd fast forward through all this, but I think I'm just gonna bang it out, no camera. You guys seen us tear these things apart a million times. If I see something super intriguing, I'll let you know. Otherwise, I'm just gonna bang it out because we're already way deeper into this thing than I ever planned to be in a 1969 ElCamino. All right, we got everything destroyed. That's what we did. First frickin' piston I knocked out of there. Dropped it. Busted the gall dang skirt. Don't worry. We're gonna file it down and run it. Good enough for the girls we go with, right, Duff? And I noticed the cam was rubbing up against the timing gear right there, which the cam is guided by, you know what, the crankshaft. So if everything slid ahead, it's gonna slide the cam ahead. Lifters all look great, bores look great. It's nice and clean inside that block. Well, not that clean. So we got it all apart. Take it outside, pressure wash it. It's the end of the day here. I got the Bobcat all dirty when they were doing some dirt work, so pressure wash that because I love pressure washing. It's cold, it's windy. So when I get done pressure washing, it's gonna be sandwich 30. So let's do that. One thing about pressure washing, one of these is you probably want to wipe it down with oil or something of that manner so it doesn't flash rust, but we definitely won't be doing that. All right, let's do this. You ready, Duff? Ready. I got the cam out. Everything's pretty much out. Cam bearings are still in it. There's a couple of forward lifters that don't want to come out. I suppose they're mushroomed just enough on the end, and I don't care. So they're staying in there. The block off plate, adapter plate thinger for the oil filter is still on there. The freeze plugs are still in there. Core plugs, they're in good shape, so we're not replacing those. But other than that, she's a stripper model. She's a Tiffany model. All right, are you gonna stay curled up on your nice warm bed while I pressure wash? Yeah, not likely. I'm sure you'll be looking over my shoulder the whole time, you creep. Yeah, pressure washing. Oh, I just split my dickie some more, dang it. YouTuber tech tip of the day, always put your camera downwind to where you're pressure washing. You make a lap around the yard this morning, check everything out. Yeah, see how they're doing on a concrete job. All right, got this thing wiped down last night. Before I washed it, I took a super scraper to all the gasket mating surfaces and cleaned those up. And then, like I said, lubed everything up with some Croil last night. Now we're gonna take our cylinder hone. We got the Flexi hone here because it's made in USA. And we're gonna use some 1030 like they say to lubricate it and spin it to 500, 800 RPM. Have it spinning upon entry and removal, and 60 to 120 strokes per minute. And 45-degree crosshatch angle. 20 to 40 seconds per cylinder. And then we're gonna clean it with warm or hot water and detergent using a brush, and then oil the cylinder. We're definitely gonna do all the above to a T. So we're gonna give this thing a dingle ball hone overhaul. I figured since we're already here, we might as well use that thing since we got it. So we're gonna do that, and then we'll clean up the crank. I got some 600 grit. We'll polish any spots on the crank that we see that need it. We'll drop the crank in there. We'll use liberal amounts of assembly lube on that and the pistons. We'll check the pistons, all the rings, make sure they're all nice and loose, and slam this stuff all together, torque them to specs. I don't know what else to tell you. Cam, we'll lube that up, we'll lube the lifters up. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna 60 to 120 strokes a minute. I got this. All right, I'm gonna go get some warm soapy water and we'll wipe those cylinders out and then wipe them down with a little bit more Croil. Keep the flash rust. I don't know why you gotta wipe the oil out, but it's what it tells you to do. So, oh, I suppose that oil could have some crap in there from the honing process, you know? So we got a freshly machined block. Yeah, how about that? First time you've seen one of those on the channel. Probably, maybe, I don't know. All right, I'm gonna do that. And then we'll continue on. Got our block all scrubbed down. Now we're gonna start throwing bearings in it. We gotta do a rear main seal on these things. This is a 2-piece rear main seal. They always leak every time I touch one. So we always stagger them. So you got your block that's cut this way, so you stagger it so it's offset a little bit, and then you put a little dab of right stuff in each corner, and they still leak on me. 1-piece rear main's what, 86 and newer? Huge improvement. So we're gonna do main bearings first. Like I said, we're gonna slather them real good in the old assembly lube. We aren't gonna plastic gauge it because this thing was all together and running once in that block. So we're just gonna rotate it every time we throw a bearing in there, tighten something up, or throw a piston in there just to make sure everything's free. If it binds, stop. Back up, see what's going on. I have no idea what Duff's barking at, but I better see what's going on there. So let's steal some bearings out of that. You got to keep the rod caps with this engine and those rod caps with that engine. But let's put this thing together. All right, got all our main bearings swapped over. These things are actually date coded 8 of 72, so these are the original main bearings. This crank's never been turned, and the bearings have never been replaced. One tech tip, the insert that goes in the block's got a hole in it, and the insert that goes in the sleeve, or the cap, does not have a hole in it. And then there's these little alignment tangs. You got one there, and one right there. They gotta line up. So, couple of tech tips for you. All right, let's polish up that crank a little bit, and then we'll throw some lube on it and throw her in. All right, crank's all polished up. Got some Lubriplate number 105 assembly grease. Ooh, it says especially for motor rebuilding and other automotive applications, like other things. The original white. Lubriplate division, Fiske Brothers Refining Company. Newark, New Jersey, and Toledo, Ohio. I don't know, a little's good, a lot is better, right? All the mayonnaise. Oh, we definitely got to put that rear main seal in there first. That wouldn't have been good. I'm gonna see if I can find one of those. I should probably just go find a gasket set. Got a rear main seal set in, 3/8 of an inch offset. I'm gonna put a little grease on that too to try to keep it nice and supple and not burn up in the first few revolutions. And then we're gonna drop our crank in there. Now don't set it in backwards. All right. We're gonna lube up all our main caps, set everything together. Chin's gonna try to kill my shop vac. We're gonna torque them down. What? Sounds like it's already dead. Torque these down to 70 foot-pounds. Start in the middle, work our way out. Probably the wrong way, but that's the way we're doing it. sure it turns free. Good to go. All right, now we're ready to knock some pistons in. We'll make sure and keep our bearings all the same. So you take them out of the number one piston, put them in the number one piston, make sure the bearings that's on the rod before stays on the rod, and then you gotta make sure the one that's on the cap stays on the cap. There's a little notch on the piston right there. That's got to face forward. Just gonna turn our crank so our journal's all the way down. Or do we want it all the way up? Mojo says we're taking too long with the bottom end, so he's gonna touch up the top end. We're on a budget here, so
Yeah.
try not to spend too much money. We're not putting new stainless
Come on.
sodium-filled valves in it and porting and polishing and roller tip rockers and all that stuff. So,
You just had to ruin my whole day.
all right, quit spending all my money.
All right.
Old Mojo going above and beyond. Maybe we'll even put some new valve seals in there. I think I got a bunch laying around from old kits too. All right, we gotta get this bottom end going. All right, it's finally quiet enough around here to tell you what I'm doing. I'm knocking pistons in. It's been a long time since I used one of these tools. There's a bunch of different style tools, band clamps and such. There's ones you crank down. This is kind of a neat setup. It's got a bunch of different sizes of bands you clamp down. There's dedicated, like it's almost like a funnel that you knock it in place. Probably a bunch more I'm missing. Still turns. It's gonna have a little resistance from the rings, but we'll be all right. All right, bottom end's together, oil pans on, sealed up. Watch out, there's two different thicknesses of seals for oil pans. It's bit me a couple times. I put the other one away. We got our fuel pump rod and plate in there. We're ready to put the top end together. All right, let's stick the heads on. I don't know what Chin and Mojo exactly did, but I know they had the valves out, and I know Chin education from old Mojo. Mojo has got a valve grinding machine. He ran them home and touched them up. I got a valve grinding machine, but it's at the old shop. We got to bring it here so Mojo can show us how to run the thing. So it should be good to go. I don't know if they put new seals on the valves or what they did, but they got to be better than they were. Grab some head gaskets, maybe clean up the bolts a little bit, maybe not. Throw some bolts in it, torque them down, good to go. I'm gonna slather our lifters up in some assembly lube, throw them back in there. Of course, they gotta go in the same place they came out of, so that's why Mojo's got this fancy little stand here for that. All right, lifters are in. Put our push rods in and adjust our rocker shafts. We're ready for the intake. We're getting there. I like to take these push rods and look through the end. Oil's got to pass through there to prime the rocker shafts, or the rockers. And if you can't see all the way through there, they'll build up with sludge. So always aim it up at the light, put your eyeball up to it, check and see if you can see light through there. If not, dip them in something, I don't know, brake cleaner, and put some compressed air to them. That usually cleans them up. So far these ones have looked pretty good. There's a lot of RTV on the push rods in the rocker arms. I don't know if that was when somebody put valve cover gaskets on it or if somebody was in there and tried fixing something. We never have heard this bottom end run, so we don't know. If you're gonna open an engine up, be sneaky with the RTV. So the way I like to adjust your lifters, push rods, rocker arms, whatever you want to call it, I like to spin these things, and once you get a little bit of tension on them, that's when you've taken up all your backlash, and then spin them a half turn. So you can do the whole set the engine at top dead center on whatever cylinder, or you can just do them all, spin the engine, do them all, spin the engine, do them all until you never find any that are loose. So there's a lot of different methods. I like to just do them all, spin the engine over a little bit, do them all some more. Eventually, you'll get them all. We're gonna take our new old stock Felpro intake gaskets and put a big old dab of Right Stuff silicone on the china walls. Throw our stock cast iron 4-barrel quadribog intake on, because that's what we got, and I'm guessing that quadribog's gonna make just as much power as this worn out rebuilt 350 is gonna need. All right, I think we're ready to prime this thing. We got the Harvest King Special 10W30, nothing but the finest tractor store oil that I could buy for, man, I don't remember what this stuff was, like 15 bucks, 20 bucks. Super reasonable. Hopefully the drain plug's in there. Nothing running out the bottom. All right, you got our oil pressure gauge, got our priming tool here. Slide that in there. Look at that, 40 pounds of oil pressure. That means our oil pump must be working and we must not have too excessive of bearing clearances. Then we gotta wait for it to come up these push rods. And once that happens, we can throw it all back together. Sometimes you gotta turn it over a couple of different spots so that oil will come up. All right, got her all primed up. Once you start seeing oil running down these guys, you know you're good to go. Want to run her a little bit more, get it all the way up to these front ones. I'm guessing it starts at the back and moves its way forward because those are the first ones we saw to get oil. And then we'll check back in, but I think we can bolt the valve covers on and probably some manifolds, water pump, carburetor, all that good stuff. Drop the distributor in, we'll get her set to top dead center. We're ready for a run stand. That's right, you heard me, run stand. I don't want to put this thing in that right away. And we're kind of running out of time to get that car going. We got to find a drive shaft, and throttle linkage is going to be different with this, and shift linkage is screwed up. We don't have brakes, all that, so we're just going to go right to the run stand and make sure this thing works good before we stick her in a vehicle. All right, next debacle, we found out this rocker arm was sitting about like that, offset. So you can tell the stud is bent. So instead of taking that out and replacing it, we're gonna do the right thing and just try to straighten it out. And hopefully not bust out the casting on this head, because then we'll really be up it. Don't go too far now, a little bit at a time. You're frickin' strong now, just be careful. Okay, what do you think? I think it's gotta go a little more.
A little more.
Whoa, whoa. I think that's
That looks pretty good.
about as good as we're gonna get.
Put your rocker arm on there and see.
And I did look at the base of this rocker arm, and you can see it was running fine before, so I think when we took it to our rebuilders, they must have bent it. Sit in the middle, ain't it? How far do you snug these up? So you can't get any lash, and then how much?
Well, I usually, they say a turn. I usually go about 3/4, go past 3/4 turn, down.
I've been going a half. You say 3/4. You know what? We're probably all right. As long as they don't make noise.
Yeah, right.
All right, yeah, that looks way better. The right thing to do would have been to pull that stud out, put a new one in, but we don't do anything right around here. Or these are actually just pressed in, so you can either pin them or you can drill and tap the head and then put screw-in studs. That's what you got to do if you do race car stuff, which we don't do here. All right, got our valve covers on, water pumps on, pulleys are on, distributor's dropped in. Hopefully got it set at top dead center if we're not 180 degrees off. Tricky Dick told us a trick about blowing air in to see if it's on the exhaust stroke, and I don't know if I completely understand the situation, but I tried it, and I think we got it. We'll see. All right, we're gonna drop our cap on here, go grab some spark plugs, maybe try to round up some manifolds, and see if we can't round up our run stand, or one of them, and get this thing roaring to life. Got her set in the stand, got a starter on it, flex plate on it, fuel pump on it, fuel line, Quaderbog. This is what came with the engine. I did stick a new fuel pump on it because I pretty much throw old ones away because new ones are super reasonable. Get a new set of plugs in there. Yeah, that's right, Delco RT45S's. We got vacuum advance on it. We got a whole bunch of vacuum plugs. We got our PCV hooked up. You're welcome, Greta.
How dare you!
And yeah, it cranks over. Just kidding. All right, I'll look into that. It cranked over a minute ago so that I could get the fuel pump on. We'll do some digging. We blew this fuse because I may have hooked up the fuel line and arced out the starter switch. Yep. I'm gonna go grab a new 25 amp fuse. infuse in. Yeah, we gotta tighten up our distributor. Hopefully, that didn't screw nothing up. Whoopsies. I'm gonna find top dead center again and drop that back in place. Check back in a minute. I have never had a distributor jump out like that. I've never failed to put the distributor hold down clamp in place apparently. So got this thing retimed. The quadribog has fuel to it. See if this thing will crank up. Fresh overhaul by Mortske, Mojo and Company. Hopefully they don't need a return spring on the old quadribog.
Slingshot engaged.
The gauge says we don't have oil pressure, but it's also leaking profusely out of the line, so I feel like we got oil pressure. Let me figure out something different for a line for oil pressure. Sounds pretty good. All right, got our oil pressure gauge hooked up with our favorite plastic line. This is a perfect application for it. If it fails, you just make a mess. It doesn't oil up the track or burn down your car or run down your leg. All right, see if this thing will fire up once again. See if we got oil pressure. Not bad for a bunch of garbage we just hucked together, I think. Put a new fuel pump in it, I had laying around. Mostly gaskets I had laying around. I had to hit up Cupcake for the oil pan gasket. Shout out to Cupcake. Mojo had the timing cover gasket. We reused the bearings, timing chain, everything's reused. I had the intake gaskets. We reused the valve cover gaskets because those things are apparently hard to find around here. Put new spark plugs in it. This thing runs pretty good. You don't have to buy the fancy aluminum intake, the aftermarket distributor, the Holley carburetor, the aluminum valve covers. Nobody sees any of that if you keep the hood closed. And this thing will probably go around the road just fine. You might want to, put a new tune-up in it, go through the carburetor, cap holder, plugs, wires, that usual stuff. Maybe a water pump. That might leave you on the side of the road, and they're pretty reasonable. And you don't need to paint it. That's the thing. Pretty much, we got like 3 engines around here that are painted, and all they do is look like crap after a little while. Shin's pickup, it isn't painted. He drives the snot out of it. Everything that I got pretty much isn't painted. There's one coming up in a video. The 63 Pontiac and the 63 Impala we painted up. I think those are like the only 3 painted engines we got around here, and it's time consuming, and it doesn't stay clean long, and they leak and then they get dirty. And so if they start out clean dirty like this, you're good to go. You can see the leaks and you can pressure wash them off again and not have a problem. So I don't think we really have much time this week. We got a lot of stuff going on with the concrete and vacations and everything else going on. So I think this is where we're gonna wrap it. We got this 350 piece back together with a bunch of garbage. I mean, this engine was shot The cam was wiped out. This engine, the crankshaft was wiped out, the bearings were wiped out. Will it last forever? Probably not. Will it make it 5,000 miles? We might have to find out. I don't feel like putting this thing back together because we're kind of out of time and I don't really love this car. I don't really have a title, so if you want to own this car as a roller without a title, hit us up, mortskerepair@gmail.com. Price and availability in the video description. I'm probably not going to sell with this engine because you probably don't want it, and we're short on small blocks around here, so we're going to hang on to this one. That's pretty good. I didn't even turn the distributor at all to time it. Mojo went through the heads. He said they all look pretty good. Speaking of that, Mojo's going through the heads over here. So he just ran to his place because that's where he's got the valve grinder. But these are the heads that were on that engine. These are 993s. I think we got 882s on there, or vice versa. But everything cleaned up pretty good. There was one valve in there that was a bit pitted. That seat right there was probably the one. She's a little pitted up, so we might have to touch that up with our seat grinder. Otherwise, everything looks pretty good. So we got a nice virgin block 350 to go through there. We're gonna have to find a crank for it. We got a good set of heads here. That block has never been bored out. It's never had bearings put in it, so that'll be a good block for a build in the future. Maybe we'll send that off to a machine shop and do a build. Let us know if you want to see stuff like that. We got the blower motor. The original blower motor is sitting here, which pretty much we just need to drop some pistons in, a new set of pistons, and we can have that thing going down the road. But yeah, let us know if you like seeing this stuff on a budget. You can maybe send a block off and have it machined, and a crankshaft, have it machined, and we could slam the cam bearings in and assemble the bottom end like we did here. And obviously we can go through heads on our own. We can't put guides in and do seats and stuff like that, but we can do valve jobs. So yeah, I think that's where we're gonna wrap it. You can do this stuff on a budget. You don't have to rebuild the engine completely. Just hodgepodge something together, run it. First thing that happens are grenades, and you get a story to tell out of the deal. You could spend a whole bunch of money on blueprint engines and spend like $6-7 grand and grenade it and still get a story to tell. But this is a lot cheaper and it's more fun, and it's a good learning experience. And you can throw this in your Nova, your ElCamino or whatever, and get it rolling, and then build the one that you want on the side. And then when you get that one done, then you can swap it out and you can sell the old one, because small block stuff is getting hard to find. We're trying to find gasket set. Nobody had anything around here. None of the parts stores. Small blocks are 40 years old. They're obsolete, apparently, to the parts stores. And so yeah, we had to make do with what we had, and we didn't spend a lot of money doing it. So that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching. Check out our other videos. Check out the merch, mortske.com. We got decals, we got ball caps, we got sweatshirts, we got t-shirts, we got banners, we got magnetic can koozies, we got all kinds of magnetic screwdrivers on hand right now. We've got a bunch of new designs. Go check those out. But yeah, remember, it doesn't matter, get it done. At least you're having fun. Getting an engine to run after you did all that work is fun. That was made me sweat though. All right, on to the next one.